Hey pals, Palumor here. In today's video, babe, stop. I'm recording.
Why?
Those are my nuts.
I like them.
Okay. Stop. Stop eating my nuts. Give me those.
Why?
I was gonna eat them later anyways. It's actually annoying. Anyways, in today's video, I'm gonna be going over my 9.1 sub-rogue guide, so I guess let's just jump right into it. Okay guys, welcome back to another video. So like I said, today's video is basically going to be my sub-rogue guide for 9.1 for PvP. I've been getting a lot of questions on my stream all the time about different things. People ask me if sub's even good, if it's viable. I can tell you right at the start, sub is going to be very strong in 9.1, especially with the upcoming reset when the new Kyrian Legendary is live. But anyways, let's just dive into all the stuff. I'm going to be going over talents, PvP talents, conduits, the Covenants, and then Legendaries, and we'll keep it kind of brief. So yeah, let's go. Okay, first up, let's cover the talents. So top tier here, we have three options. Basically, pre-med's safe to go with almost always. Weapon Master might be a bit better at some points. I thought about with the new Legendary, but I think generally just running pre-med safe. This isn't really too up in the air. Next tier, this is one that you can kind of mess around with a bit. Generally, when I'm playing with a mage, I like to play Subterfuge, because if you ever get caught in a weird situation where you get a re-stealth, but you don't actually have Shadow Dance, you can basically do a go where you're able to stun lock a target or open with multiple stuns at least with Subterfuge, whereas having Night Stalker is only really a damage bonus. So I think Night Stalker is generally better to play if you're playing like 2v2 with a healer, something where you're setting up all of your goes by yourself. You're only going to do a go with Shadow Dance. Subterfuge probably better in 3v3, or if you're playing with like a mage in 2v2 where you have DPS help. In the next tier, these are some that I mess around with as well. I don't ever play Vigor. Mark for Death is generally the safe pick, but Deeper Stratagem is something that can help, not really for the extra damage that you get from the extra combo point and percentage modifier, but basically just for an extended stun duration. So there's a lot of stun reductions in the game right now, specifically Orc, as I'm playing here, has a 20% stun reduction permanently through their talents here, or not talents, through their passive hardiness. So this is going to affect how long your kidney shot lasts. Stacked up with also there's a legendary called Sephuz, right here, and sometimes you'll fight against like an orc warrior and they'll even be running this, or even like an orc assassination rogue that's running this, and it's going to greatly reduce the time on your kidneys. If you're ever playing against a warrior, it's pretty safe to run Deeper Stratagem. Keep in mind though, in 3v3 this might be a bit different. Mark for Death is really good for having instant access to full combo points if you need them for a kidney shot, whereas this one's more of kind of like the 2v2 playing with a healer vibe again, where you have time to kind of set up your aggressive windows. But yeah, I mess around with those two. In the next tier, Cheat Death, you could play this first like Rogue Mage and 2 sometimes, or against sub rogues a bit, but generally you almost always want to play Elusiveness. The only time you would ever take Soothing is if you're playing like a double DPS comp where you don't have food. Yeah, you're not playing with a mage, I guess. I used to run this when I would do gold boosting in 2v2. But yeah, generally you'll get more value out of this, and you should be able to like get away and reset and bandage yourself or whatever it is. You're not going to necessarily need this, but then again, it's kind of preference at the end of the day for 2v2. Next tier, I don't ever play either of these two. I always play Prey for the extra 5% it is in PvP, extra 5% damage on stuns. This one could be good for saving some energy, but like I said, I've never played it. Definitely not needed. Now, in the next tier, as you guys might have known from Season 1, the One Dance build was very strong, especially with the way you could stack it with the Crit Legendary. I now think that the Crit Legendary being duration nerfed, as well as other changes to the Rogue kit, like Cold Blood being gone and things like that, that you should almost never take Dark Shadow. You're almost always going to benefit more from having 2 Shadow Dances now, so Enveloping is definitely the way to go. Alacrity is definitely garbage for sub. Haste is almost useless for us. And then in the last tier here, definitely just Master of Shadows all the way. Gives you a lot of energy regen every time you dance, so it's good. Now, looking at the PvP talents. These are ones that are new, so let's talk about those. Shadowy Duel got a nerf down to 5 seconds from 6 seconds. It is still extremely broken, a really good pick. You should almost always run this one baseline. Very, very rarely would you ever change it. It's good defensively, it's good offensively, it's good for utility, really good talent. I have a whole video talking about Shadowy Duel, actually. Smoke Bomb, this is one that you might interchange, but generally running these two baseline is what I do. Once again, very rare that you would drop a Smoke Bomb, but there is a chance that you could do that with some comps. And then the last tier. So rogues, every spec now has disarm. So what I like to do is I actually like to rotate between dismantle and thick as thieves. So these are two of the new ones. Basically, if you tricks a target, you give them a 15% damage bonus for 6 seconds after you attack. So this is really good once again, anytime you're really needing more damage. So sometimes if you're playing against, let's say like casters in 2v2 with a healer, you can use this on your healer to give their mind games more damage and things like that. It's also really good with Rogue Mage to buff your mage's damage. In Disarm, this is kind of the safe pick anytime you fight against something like a Warrior Assassination Rogue. Something where disarming is going to greatly help you defensively. Like I said, if you're playing a caster, this is fully useless. This is probably almost always the second best. Another one I want to talk about is actually Thief's Bargain. So some people think this sounds really good, and some people think it sounds really bad. I personally think that this is really bad. I don't like that it has a damage reduction attached to it. That means if you're going to use Shadow Blades on a go, you're basically reducing your damage by 10% for 6 seconds. That seems extremely counterproductive. As well as every single time you faint in Vanish, you have a damage reduction too. I don't know. I just don't think it's that important. Having cooldown reduction on Vanish doesn't seem like something that's going to be that relevant as a rogue in Arena. I feel like if you use your defensive cooldowns properly, you won't run into games where you lose because you don't have Vanish by 30 seconds or whatever it is. Same with Feint. Feint's already a 15-second cooldown, so it costs a lot of energy. Spamming this in Arena isn't really that viable either. I don't think it's that good, but yeah, generally between Disarm and Tricks, there might be some times where I'd play Disarm, Tricks, and Duel and take away Bomb. It really depends on what comps you fight against, but that's the PvP talents and normal talents. This one's also new, but I really don't think it's very good for anything. It's kind of fun as like a little gimmicky toy to mess around with, but nothing for actual competitive Arena. Okay, now we're going to dive right into the conduits, and I'm going to kind of run you through what I'm running here and my thought process behind that. So I am not maxed out on all the conduits by any means. I don't have all of them, and I don't have them all at max eye level, but that shouldn't really matter. But yeah, let's jump into it. So as Kyrian, that's kind of the only ones I'm going to cover because I'm mainly playing Kyrian. My alt is Necro Assassination, so I guess I'll save that for my assassination video I plan to make. But yeah, let's go into this one. So for the most part, I think I'm always going to play Pelagos with a rare chance of playing Clea, which I haven't fully set up yet, but I can end up showing you guys that later. But I'll show you what I do. So obviously you get the mastery buff off of your Echoing Reprimand. This is really good, especially with the new legendary coming up that I'll talk about. Same with Planned Execution. So with basically the crit legendary being out of the meta now, this is what almost every single rogue is playing. Obviously it's nerfed now in PvP, so almost nobody should play this anymore. Crit is becoming a much more valuable stat. This legendary was basically canceling out this conduit from being very good because we already had a 100% crit window in the peak of our burst most of the time anyways. Now, crit's going to become extremely valuable because we're going to be throwing 7-point eviscerates on our targets with our new legendary, and if those crit, we're talking insane amounts of damage. So this is a really, really good conduit in my opinion. Next to Reverberation, these two are probably the best two, so definitely prioritize getting your hands on this one. And the reason why I take three potency conduits instead of the extra finesse conduit is because I don't really like this soulbind that you pick up here, the file. I like when my Kyrian potion is an instant heal. I don't like that this turns it into a hot. It turns it into a 10-second heal over time instead. So for that reason, I prioritize the potency so I don't have this. Not that this one's good at all. This is actually useless, but yeah, just to avoid that. Next up here, Cloaked in Shadows. So this is nerfed in PvP. With 9.1, it only lasts for 4 seconds now after you go into stealth instead of permanently. I think this is probably a good change altogether for the game, but it's still definitely a good one to take. Sometimes if you vanish and you have a dot on you, it can save you for a couple seconds before you get knocked out. Definitely one of the best endurance conduits still. This one doesn't matter, up to you. And then you go down here, second potency, I go with Reverberation. You can get this off the world bosses from 9.0. And this is just all together, I think, pretty good. Echoing Reprimand obviously is nerfed in PvP, the damage, but it still does a handful of damage. And increasing the amount of damage it does, since you're going to use it every time it's up on a go, it's going to help you out significantly, in my opinion. Very good. Then we're taking a Finesse Conduit here. This is a must, just like in Season 1. Reduce energy costs on basically our CC. This is just really important, especially if you're triple stunning a kill target. This is going to help you get a lot more damage off. You're never going to be energy starved. You're going to be able to land your triple stuns every single go. So that's great. Moving down here, This one obviously is pickup, and then I go into another potency. For the third potency, I grabbed Deeper Daggers. This is going to increase a bit of the damage we do when we're spamming Eviscerates on a go, especially once again with the new Legendary. Everything in here really synergizes with that. Something else I want to talk about quick though is where I actually plan to go. So this one actually looks really good. I'm definitely going to try to go this way. I get a second Finesse Conduit where I'll probably put quick decisions, but this one's really good because it actually, the way I like to talk about it is like, let's say you're versing another rogue. As soon as you come out of the stun and you get re-sunned, you're basically taking 20% reduced damage instantly, and you can't be slowed below 90%. So I'm just picturing in 3v3 in a rogue mage priest mirror, this is going to be really good for any rogue to be playing, especially if they're Kyrian. It's going to increase your chance of surviving. You know, if it's ever like not a combustion go and it's really close and kind of on the edge, this 20% wall is going to help a ton. And now I'll touch on Clea really quickly. So the only time I think I'd ever run Clea is really versus like a hardcore bleed class, maybe versus an assassination rogue or a feral, and that is because on the side here we have a soulbind called Ascendant File, and this means when you use your Kyrian potion, for 8 seconds, you become completely immune to all the things that it cleanses you of. So, curses, diseases, poisons, and bleeds. This means if an assassination rogue vendettas you, almost half of his vendetta, he can't even apply his poisons and bleeds to you, which is almost all of his damage. Obviously, same thing for a feral using Berserk. Just a really, really good defensive tool. Not 100% sure I'd run it every single time, but this is something that I've thought about. It's kind of more of a tanky build here. Also, you have this one here. After 5 seconds out of combat, gain a shield for 10% of your max health. It's just got a couple tanky traits in here. I haven't super dove into it, as you can see. I haven't even selected some of these, but yeah, something that I have considered. Definitely can mess around with it. And then this one I haven't really messed with too much at all. I've looked at them and nothing really stuck out to me. This is, of course, kind of troll the auto stun thing, but I don't think that's worth running, especially as a rogue. I'm pretty sure this puts the targets on stun DR, so if you get procced at low health, you're putting yourself even farther behind as a sub rogue by getting your offensive targets put onto a stun DR. So yeah, all in all, definitely run Pelagos primarily and potentially Clea as a defensive option. Okay, so next up, I'm just going to talk about the Covenants altogether in terms of subtlety. So as you guys know, near the end of 9.0.5, Venthyr was kind of the go-to guaranteed best seeming pick. With the nerf of the crit legendary and the upcoming changes to the new legendaries that I'll talk about in a second for like the 20th time I brought up, Kyrian I think is by far going to take over the meta for sub-rogues. Basically just because of that legendary. I think Venthyr is still definitely the second best. It's still going to do a good amount of burst, and it's definitely still viable. You know, having the door for the extra mobility is good as well. I even think Night Fae is not too terrible. Now that the crit legendary is nerfed a bit, I actually think this makes Night Fae a bit stronger, because once again, it kind of has like the best mobility out of all the Covenants. It's not like door, it's instacast. You don't have to channel it and get kicked. So Night Fae is number 3 probably. Venthyr number 2, and Kyrian number 1 for sub-rogues. Necrolord, I've heard people tell me they like it, but I've played it for quite some time, and I really, really, really don't like it. It feels like you're sacrificing a lot of burst damage for survivability that's not really needed as a sub-rogue. As a sub-rogue, you're already kind of running in the first place, so I think playing Necrolord sub is kind of counterproductive. You kind of want to get the most out of your burst windows. So yeah, number 1 Kyrian, number 2 Venthyr, number 3 Night Fae, and number 4 Necrolord. Now the last thing I'm going to touch on is basically Legendaries for the 500th time of the video, and I'm going to talk about what I think are the best to play. So if you're playing Kyrian, of course, number 1 is this one right here, the new one that's coming out on Tuesday. You get it at Renowned 48. This is going to give you 4 anima charged combo points every time you press Echoing Reprimand. So usually it would only give you 1, meaning that if you hit your anima point, you get a 7-point eviscerate basically. This makes all 4 of your combo points become anima points, and if you land on them, you'll do 7-point finishers. The best part about this is when I first read it, I thought once you consumed 1 anima point, they would all disappear, but all 4 of them actually stay until you use them or until Echoing Reprimand is back off cooldown. They actually last for 45 seconds, the same cooldown as the spell itself. So this is going to be really, really good. Now you can kind of understand why I was saying crit's going to be really valuable. 7-point eviscerates critting is really massive. So yeah, definitely the number 1 legendary. I will be building it on my waist just because of the domination sockets being on the helmet, shoulder, and chest. In case those ever become relevant, I don't want to have the wrong legendary, so I'll be getting the belt. I've already got that in my bag right here, ready to go with Verse Mastery. Actually, talking about Verse Mastery, I might as well quickly mention stat priority. I still think is going to be versatility over mastery, over crit, over haste. Mastery is like a really consistent stat, so I still think it's much better than crit, but crit is by far more valuable than haste now. It's kind of like not even a comparison anymore. Next legendary that I think you would play, there's a new Venthyr one coming out that some people are excited for, but I don't think this is that good personally. As I've read this and kind of thought about it, it seems like the bonuses you get from this legendary kind of come delayed, whereas like let's say you're doing a go as a sub rogue, you're getting your burst off, and as you're spending all these combo points, your damage with the legendary should be going up and up and up, but in reality, as a sub rogue, you're kind of like running out of damage and the go's kind of over. By the time that the value from this legendary comes into play, they would have already either died or they would have already traded defensive cooldowns. So I don't know. Situational. I haven't really seen this. I haven't tested it. I'm not going to say anything terrible about it, but I know a lot of people have said good things about this one. So potentially this. And then if you're not going for a damage bonus legendary, I think the best choice is probably just to go with Invigorating Shadow Dust. This one, some people like Naj have played since day one, off and on, and this basically just offsets the cooldown of things like your blind and your kidney. So you could literally throw a blind 2-minute cooldown, and then you vanish within those 2 minutes. It becomes 1:40 on the cooldown. Same with Smoke Bomb. Subtlety Smoke Bomb got changed from 3 minutes to 2 minutes, so you could Smoke Bomb a target, force a trinket, and then you could basically vanish in between, and you have Smoke Bomb back off cooldown before they have their trinket back in 1:40. Same with like Kidney. You could literally Kidney Shot, vanish, and Kidney Shot again instantly. So you could do some cool stuff with this. I personally don't think that this is that good anymore, because the damage benefit legendaries seem much better, especially with the loss of crit. Yeah, so that's basically legendaries. Number 1, if you're Kyrian, Resounding for sure. Number 2, if you're Kyrian, Shadow Dust. And then for Venthyr, you could try this one potentially. Like I said, I haven't tested it. I wouldn't take my word on it, but still Shadow Dust is valuable. And then as for this one, I think this is really terrible for a sub rogue. The sub rogue playstyle has nothing to do with cleaving, so you definitely will not play this if you're playing Necro sub. If you're playing Nightface sub, this also doesn't seem that great. Like I don't know. I haven't really tested these ones. Not too insane to me. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I'm open-minded to hearing any ideas, but yeah, that's basically the legendaries. Anyways, guys, I think I've dragged out the video longer than I intended anyways. I really appreciate you all tuning in to my sub guide for 9.1. Next week, as soon as the new legendary is out, I will make a video showing you guys some opening burst rotations and some cool ways to utilize the most damage out of the new legendary. And other than that, I will probably have an assassination video, a guide for 9.1 PvP as well, coming out very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all, and I hope you guys are having a great day. I will see you all in the next video.